Good morning.
Good morning.
No. This talk is about reviving cheese. Cheese was a native widget UI for Squeak that I did 1997, 1998. I just felt at that time it would be just cool and intellectually stimulating to make a fully open source native windowed Smalltalk. So it was Squeak version 1 at that point. It was just released by Disney. And when I was sitting there, I was like, okay, how do I do this? How do I debug a system which I'm just starting to writing this brand new UI system, and if I switch to that, well, I will not be having my debugging tools. And mind you, this was the 90s, so the debugging possibilities were more limited than now. So I looked at my different options, what the different UI platforms provided, and I found that, okay, well, on OS 2, the way how Squeak worked at that time, the way to run Squeak on OS 2 at that point was that you have this EMX, which provides you some sort of a POSIX compatibility emulation layer. So you can use GCC, you can program to the POSIX APIs, and it also had an X11 implementation, the X386 at that time, which was ported to OS 2. So I said, okay, this is really interesting. What I can do is I can compile Squeak using the traditional Jan Pumarta's source code, compile that against EMX, run Squeak on OS 2 that way, and then I basically have can have two interfaces. I can be talking to X11 for my debugging tooling, and I can be talking to the OS 2 native windowing facilities for that new UI that I was trying to make. So the challenge was, okay, this is a truly single-threaded VM, but like not possible multiple threads of like multiple Smalltalk mutator thread, but you cannot even make an asynchronous call out at that point. So, okay. The challenge was, how do I make these two UI loops coexist peacefully and not block each other? Like, okay, well, I'm blocking waiting for the next UI event, but I need to be able to debug that, so my X11 loop shall still work. So solving that, I released two or three different versions of that, but really there are two generations. What I called Cheese 4 was the this dual-faced or dual-headed version where you can talk simultaneously to X11 and to native OS 2. And then when I had enough native UI and enough native UI based tools, I said, oh, okay, well now let's cut the X11 portion, filter it out or trace the image, not including all the native bit bleeding portions, cut it out of the VM, so this becomes a purely a native OS 2 application, and that I call Cheese 5. And then when I presented it to a number of people in the Squeak community at that time, the reaction was pretty much that, well, this is not so interesting because, well, we are interested in this, what you can conceptually do when you have complete freedom regarding your display, just as a two-dimensional array of pixels. So e-toys are interesting, and if you want if you want native windows in Smalltalk, well, there's Visual Age. You can always use that. So at that point, that kind of stopped, and here, 17 years later, this summer in Cambridge at ESAG, a number of people seemingly not connected to each other in that thought came to me saying, you are that Squeak Boris, not some other Boris, are you? Yes. It was very, very interesting, that cheese thing that you made. Is there any sort of possibility to have our hands on that code to see how it works and maybe use it? Or is that thing still alive? And I come back home to Ottawa, and I think, this is an interesting thing, that suddenly, in one event, different people were talking to me about this same thing. Well, we want to see cheese alive again. Okay, well, through a number of emerged data disasters, I was able to rescue the image of that code, so I have the sources, I have the image, a bunch of them. So some of them were buggy and did not want to come up in a VirtualBox guest of OS2, but some of them did come up, and this is what I'm going to show you. So. Battery, you think? Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see if that's a battery thing. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Okay, so let's take and there is box, and I have one of these. So can I take it? So this is OS2. Back to the future. Ooh, I just realized something. We will need. No, that's okay. That's perfectly okay. We will need a real, actual mouse. You can provide? Because this thing will, for some weird reason, refuse to work with a trackpad on an Apple machine. Thank you. So, there's a mouse there. So, yeah, this is perfectly normal as well. No, actually, right. So, OS2, all that goodness, right? So, this other thing, yeah. something, blah, 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 messaging. So, the network here, and we will need the network, and I'll explain why. The network here is configured as not internally provided by VirtualBox. So let's see. Of course, there is no command line completion in this shell. LAN 0. Okay, so that's the address. And my address here of the host is 10.16.29.81. Let's see if I can ping the MAC. 10.16.29.81. Yeah, that pings. Perfect. Okay. So, we need to talk to the X-Quartz X server that's running on the Mac. So, geez, maybe I want to make this slightly smaller. Yeah, Alpha 45 has one of the interesting images. Okay, so a Vim here. Yeah, Squeak CMD, and here I need. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. So, I cannot see where my. Cannot see my cursor. Oh. Okay, maybe if I move it here, can I see it blinking? No, I cannot see it blink. Okay, well, for whatever reason, try again. No cursor. Okay, but it's here. Okay, how about edit? I have no Vim? Well, I have Vim, but I don't see the cursor blink. Okay, well, how about I can bring Q out of here? Huh. Okay. Okay, let's try this other thing, which was popular here. Nevertheless, oh, is it this? Oh, yeah. Yep. No. Oh. Is it one for me? Ah! I can't see anything. Okay, well, get it bigger and turn code, turn error code. Oh, okay, that's fine. Ah, right. I know why. Okay, now I understand. Now I understand. What happened? Okay, what happened was that this the terminal doesn't really understand resizing, so it thought that it had more lines than it actually had. So yes, we can go back to. Okay, I'm in cheese. Alpha 45. Yeah, that worked. And then I want vim sq.cmd. Ah, right, now it's working. So we need that, we need display. Yes. And what was it? 2981. Oh, it remembered from the previous time. Okay, very good. So, sq.cmd. And let's, actually, x term, I probably want some sort of x term here. Yes, and I want x host plus. And here, boom. Okay, there. This is classical Squeak version 1.31 actually. And if I open workspace and say let's go desktop start up. You have to use this, do it, and this, see if I have, yes, it's a native window. And then do things like, this is all native. Browse, and it's gonna ask me what I want to browse. Well, I can see this. And ask me browse what, some here. Let me show you. Yeah. So let's say browse classes. Okay. And this is all native. No, it is OS2. Yeah, obviously, but well, that's the end of the talk. Do you have any questions? Yes. Why OS2 at that time? At that point? Well, it was the only system on which debugging through this dual interfacing was possible, because the Squeak for OS2 at that point, the only way to run Squeak was to run it in this Unix compatibility mode, the Unix compatibility library, and then compile it with GCC and link it with libx11. So I could use the normal Squeak tools for debugging, for developing and debugging this. On Windows, you don't have that. On Unix, you don't have that. Well, suppose you would want to interface natively to Motif, but then you only have one message loop. And if you're stuck, or it's dead, or something goes wrong, well, exactly that. So you cannot debug. And here, if you're really, really careful, and this meant because there was no FFI on OS2 either, so I had to write an FFI from scratch. So if you're careful in how you design the FFI, and if you're careful in how you process the messages from these both loops, you can do simultaneously. I can show you, let's say, doing something like translating the slang sources for the VM. I can open it here, and it's going to open a progress dialog, and at the same time, I can do something else on the X11 screen, browse classes, and I can do it vice versa. I can start that on the on the bit-bladed display and keep going here. And it's interesting, the debugging facilities. If there is something happening that it's not like the debugger the debugging facilities cannot handle. Let's say that there's a notifier which had not been ported to this, and it's happening while you're doing something here, like you're trying to save a method, and somehow the compiler blows up with something. You will get that notifier on the X11 side in cheese 4. Yes.
Sure. The chances of getting this in another systems today or another operating systems, or
if there is interest. I mean, back then in '98, the problem was explicit lack of interest from the Squeak community. Like I had actual people, telling me, don't do that. Yeah, this is fundamentally stupid, uninteresting. This is not how these things. And today, well, I saw about. I mean, I wouldn't have to dig this out of the archives took non-trivial effort in the sense of mold eating the original CD that I lugged with me from Russia. Oh, there is this hard drive. Oh, crap, the head crashed on this. And Andres spent several months looking for a donor to replace the head in that hard drive, because with time it was a really old drive, and you cannot find this anything similar because they're out of productions. They're 20-year-old drive, blah 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 blah, right?
But that's a great story. But technical reasons that blocks you to today.
I don't think there are any major technical reasons. I mean, if you think about tools that were available back in 1995, these primitive things, right? Like I was trying to. There are more recent versions of this, and they don't come up. They blow up on startup because of some stupid technical bugs. And I was like, okay, well, let me try debugging this, right? And I go back to those tools. It's just impossible. How can anyone do anything with this, right? But today, with I could run this in a fully simulated. Well, this is a fully simulated environment, right? But there are debugging tools, right? Like looking at registers and connecting things. The tools today are so much greater that it's just, doing something like this is peanuts, right? It's just, okay, does anybody have an interest in having this done? Like, in Israel's serious interest, right? We actually... Okay.
So 11:30, Rebecca stopped, okay? Yeah.